Hello students, this is Hardik sir and we are with the last and the final part of our civics lesson number 1 from standard 7 on equality. As we have seen about dignity, that our constitution recognizes every individual as equal, but still we find some number of problems in day-to-day life because of caste, gender or even the religion backgrounds. Economic and other backgrounds, educational backgrounds also play important role with one's self-respect or dignity. But do we have a question that such inequality or the issues of equality are only found in India, or there are other countries or other democracies that they also had a struggle for equality? So this is what we are going to see with this particular part. As you probably be wondering that India is the only democratic country where such inequality is seen or experienced and where the struggle for equality continues to exist. But to the point, the truth is that many democratic countries around the world have faced such issues of unequal treatment and discrimination that continues to be the key issue around the which communities still struggle. Means to bring equality, number of democracies have put number of efforts, but the key issue around the world is which still communities are struggling. And we have one example of about United States of America, wherein African Americans, they were actually brought over from Africa, but these African Americans whose ancestors were brought, whose ancestors were slaves, present generation was not brought from Africa, and still their children, means their successors, are still treated as slaves and still they are not given equal treatment. Their ancestors were brought from Africa as slaves, but these African Americans are now no more slaves, but still they were not given equal treatments and they were considered as largely unequal. And this despite the fact that there was a movement in the late 1950s. So by 1950s, these African Americans started a movement for equality. Means they also wanted equal rights for African Americans. They were considered as African Americans, not as Americans only. Before this, prior to this, African Americans were treated extremely unequally in United States, and they were denied equality through law. Means they were not equal according to the law also. Like in India constitution, we know that everyone is equal before law, we have already studied. But with United States example, we come to know that these African Americans were denied equality. They were not given any equality in the society. So for example, when traveling by bus, we have an example, and also previously studied, we have heard the name of Rosa Parks very well. So while traveling by a bus, they had to get up from their seat whenever a white person wished to sit. It means they had to vacate the seat for them, they had to stand up, and white person can sit on that particular seat. So these were the ill treatments or unequal treatment which was given to African Americans, and for that they had started a movement. And how that movement started? So Rosa Parks. First we come to the name. Rosa Parks was an African American woman. When she was coming back to her home from a day-long work, as she was much tired, and she refused to give up her seat on a bus to a white man on 1st December 1955. So this incident started somewhere after it. 1st December 1955, an African American woman, Rosa Parks, refused to give up her seat to a white man. She took courage that she refused to give her seat to a white man, and her refusal started a huge agitation. Means huge struggle then started, in which Africans and Americans were treated and which came to be known as civil rights movement. So after that, after this refusal, civil rights movement was started. Ultimately that became because of the treatment given to Rosa Parks. And Civil Rights Act that was introduced in 1964 and that prohibited discrimination on the basis of race, religion, or even national origin. Thus, we can say that it tried to bring equality in the society for African Americans and even American. It also stated that all schools would be open to African American children. Means prior to this, before this Civil Rights Act, their children were studying in separate schools. Now there was no longer such discrimination, and now the schools were also open for African American children, and they also now didn't have to attend separate schools which was especially set up for them. But however, despite this, a majority African Americans continue to be among the poorest in the country. Still, economically they are among the poorest, and most African American children can only afford to attend government schools. Because of poverty, still they are not able to attend private or the schools which have much facilities. Means which schools they are attending, they have fewer facilities and poorly qualified teachers. So the white students have not like this. White students can either go to private school or live in the areas where government schools are highly rated as private schools. So such, because of this poverty, because we have seen they are among the poorest, and because of that they have to go to government school, their children have to go to government schools where the teachers are also not much qualified. They are not as compared to the level of the areas where government schools have highly rated. Means they are having ratings as like private schools, but still they are not able to. So thus we can conclude that civil rights movement was started after the refusal of the Rosa Parks, and Civil Rights Act was introduced in the year 1964, and after that there wasn't any kind of discrimination on number of reasons, number of bases, that now was not in the country. So with the next page you will find the excerpt of Article 15 of the Indian Constitution. So what does this Article 15 actually suggest us? As we have already studied in the previous part, that it prohibits any kind of discrimination. Means there must not be any discrimination on the basis of, on the grounds of religion, race, caste, sex or place of birth. Means our constitution does not allow any kind of discrimination. The state shall not discriminate against any citizen on grounds of, on the basis of religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or even any of them. Means the state also cannot discriminate. No citizen shall, on grounds of only religion, race, caste, sex, place of birth or any of them, no subject to any disability, liability, restriction or condition with regard to. Means what it does it regard to? Means there shall not be anything like this. Means on the basis of this they cannot be refused to access to shops, public restaurants, hotels and places of public entertainment, the use of wells, or even they can visit all the public places. Means they cannot be refused to the use of wells, tanks, bathing ghats, roads and places of public resort maintained wholly or partly by the state fund or even dedicated to the use of general public. Means which are for the use of general public, they cannot be refused, they cannot be restricted to use any of these facilities. So from this except of Article 15 we can come to know that there is now equality according to the law, and any kind of discrimination can be considered unlawful, and there are certain laws to bring equality in the society. Now what are the main challenges to democracy? As we can conclude with the last title, challenge of democracy. No country can be described as being completely democratic. No country can be described as being completely democratic, and why such happens? So there are always communities and individuals trying to expand the idea of democracy and push for a greater recognition of equality on existing as well as new issues. Means there are a number of people, they push for a greater recognition of equality. Means they try to bring more and more equality in the society. Central to this is the struggle for the recognition of all persons. Means this is not the struggle for only one individual or a person, but this is for the entire people. Means all the population is included with this, and their dignity must be maintained. In this book, we are going to study more about this issue of equality that affects the various aspects in our day-to-day life, means in our country. But as we are going to read these chapters, we will get some more information, and then we can come to know that how the dignity or how their dignity is upheld. So this we will be continuing by the upcoming chapters of social and political life. After this, we will find the exercise. The solutions will be sent to you shortly. Thank you for the day. Keep learning.